You got a DA that's out of control. You have a judge that's highly conflicted. The whole thing is a mess, and you have the leading candidate and leading crooked Joe Biden by law. He's the one that should be in trial. He's a crook.
Former President Donald Trump leaving a Manhattan courtroom today, wrapping up day 3 of jury selection in his criminal hush money trial. The day started with 2 previously seated jurors being dismissed and ended with a full 12-person jury as well as one of 6 alternates selected. With more on the historic Trump trial, we're joined once again by Loyola Law professor Jessica Levinson. Jessica, good to see you again.
Good to be back.
All right, so last night when we talked with you, about half the jury was seated. Now the full jury is seated. What do we know about these people?
We actually know a lot about them, which has been a problem for at least one juror. So we know their occupation, we know their level of education, we know where they get their news, we know whether or not they're married, whether or not they have kids. And so we know there are 2 lawyers, as we've talked about. We know that there's a software engineer. We know that there are some people who seem much more politically inclined than others. We know there are people who have said fairly negative things about the president. We don't know, of course, Alex, the big question, is there a quote unquote stealth juror for either side on this jury? And we're still, of course, waiting to fill out all of the alternates.
Do we know if any of the jurors said positive things about the former president in social media or anything like that?
So I don't know that that's been publicized. If there was I'm really supportive of the president. I think there are some people who said neutral things at the very least, and some people who it doesn't sound to me like there are a lot of very overt supporters, at least politically. Now, of course, that's not really the question here, right? The question is, put all of that aside, look at the facts presented, look at the jury instructions that will give them the applicable law, and make a determination whether or not they've ever been to a Trump rally or a Trump protest.
Although we have not seen a whole lot of people that are truly neutral when it comes to Donald Trump in terms of our society over the years. This is going to be quite a challenge. So there was a bit of a, as you mentioned, the jurors are sort of frustrated by the fact that the press is reporting as much about them as they are.
Absolutely. I think understandably, frankly, they are nervous. They do not want to lose their anonymity. And part of what the judge said today is asking/telling the press not to divulge too many details. So we know that you can have trials with jurors where we don't find out who the jurors are. For instance, think about a mob trial. I'm not saying this is a mob trial. I'm saying think about the type of trial where we have gone to great lengths to protect the identity of jurors. Even think about the E. Jean Carroll trial, where we really don't know who those jurors were. Now, one of the big questions, of course, is how will you ensure that a member of the press or somebody else in an open court doesn't give identifying information about a juror? And if that happens, what will it do to the trial?
Can you imagine what it must be like for these people? You get picked for jury duty, which most people don't want anyways. You go there, and now you're on this trial with all of that attention and everything else. I just can't even imagine what that must be like for them. There was a moment of scolding for the former president when it comes to a gag order. Can you give us some background on what's going on with that, what the former president is allowed to say, and is he following the judge's rules?
So the judge has said no, that he's not following the rules, which are basically not to criticize, for instance, future witnesses, likely future witnesses, members of the district attorney's office. And what he said is, you're doing that. And so what are the potential penalties here? It's what the penalties always are. There's money. And I think in New York, it's $1,000 per violation, or there's time in jail if the judge really feels that there's contempt of court and that jail is warranted. And I think that's up to 30 days for each violation. We should note here that going to jail based on violating a gag order, I think, would be extreme. And it's not the first thing that the judge will do. It's not the second thing the judge will do. I think it would really be after repeated violations of this gag order, which is, again, in place to try and make sure that the trial can proceed and that it will be a fair proceeding, and that the people working in the trial, the people who will testify in the trial, aren't concerned about showing up and testifying, for instance, under oath.
And last, real quick, the jury not sequestered, right?
Not that we've heard.
Yeah.
Not sequestered.
All right. Jessica Levinson, thank you so much for your insight. It is going to be fascinating to watch an unprecedented moment in American history. Marla, what's coming up next?